Welcome to VejaTV's continuing coverage of the Newark Municipal Elections. On Tuesday, May 8th, 2018, Newark residents will elect a new mayor, 4 at-large council members, and a councilman of their ward. During the last month, VejaTV has been bringing you candidate profile interviews for all candidates of the East Ward Council race, as well as the 2 mayoral candidates. Today, we are pleased to have with us Ms. Tanisha Garner, who is running for councilwoman here in the East Ward. Welcome, Ms. Garner.
Hi, how you doing?
All right, Ms. Garner, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself to the VejaTV viewers.
Hi, my name is Tanisha H. Garner, and I'm running for East Ward Councilwoman. I have lived in Newark all my life, and I also just moved to the Ironbound 3 years ago. I love the Ironbound because it's very diverse. It's so much culture. It's so much life. I guess, you know, one of the issues was definitely with when I started learning about the environment down here, because it's an industrial area and it's a residential area. And my daughter was on the front page of the Village Voice in 2016 about Port Authority, when they had about the truck stops, and then when they wanted to change the system over, because you know the diesel fuel, and a lot of children down here has asthma, and then also with some of the elderly too. So it's like, how can we promote a better, greener and cleaner Newark?
All right, so you moved to the East Ward to get involved in the environmental justice fight. Why don't you tell us exactly then why you're running for councilwoman, right?
Yes.
And what are your 3 main issues? So
environmental
justice is one, but tell us a little bit about why you chose to run. So you moved to the East Ward to fight for environmental and social justice. Tell us why you're running for council.
The reason why I'm running for council, because it's a lot that goes on, especially when you go to the community meetings and when you also go to the city hall meetings and the planning board meetings and the zoning board meetings. You learn so much about how the city works and how it's affected through the federal, the state, and the local. And by living down here, like I said, and through the environment, I learned, especially when you have the riverfront. And the river, the Passaic River, is actually has toxins in it that came from the Vietnam War, which had dioxins when they created the Agent Orange for the Vietnam War. I also learned about that and about the air quality here. Like for instance, we have Covanza, which is the incinerator, and sometimes you smell weird smells in the Ironbound. And how does that affect us? Mentally, physically, and spiritually, and especially if we have the schools down here and the children are close to those areas, because we did a report, and through the air quality report, they had like different stations, and one of the main stations were by schools. So how is that affecting their learning? You know, is it detrimental, and how can we improve it? And also, I guess that would tie into education. We just got a new school built, so that was good, Oliver Street School. So what about the other schools in the Ironbound that needs to be built, especially Hawkins Street School? And with that, then with education and also with safety. So I guess everything ties in as a whole with safety, because safety could also be an environmental issue. And with safety, how do we create a quality of life that is protective of the residents and also the business owners, and as a whole?
So, Ms. Garner, you're actually running with a slate of independent candidates. You don't have a mayoral candidate, but why don't you tell us a little bit about a movement of the people, I believe, and
yes.
Who your running mates are?
Okay, so movement of the people is 4 of us that's on the slate. We're also part of Homes for All. We have Victor Monterosa, which is B10. Anthony Diaz, so Victor Monterosa, he's running at large for B10. We also have Anthony Diaz, the Central Ward is C6. Myself, Tanisha H. Garner, I'm running for the East Ward C5. And we also have Helene Freeman, she's running for the North Ward, which is C3. We also came together, we also part of Homes for All. And with Homes for All, we helped get the rent control ordinance passed and also the inclusionary zoning. And it's basically a group effort, and the reason why we say a movement of the people, because it takes the people to change. We have to come together as a collective and understand the issues that's arising, and it's also we need to create transparency. So especially through the municipal council, how do you make sure the neighbors know what's going on? For instance, with development, when we had the MX3. Why did you change that ordinance from building? Because one, when you look at the Ironbound, everything, all the businesses and the majority of the houses are one level, so the density is the same. So why would you build higher when you know that would change the face of the community? So when the MX3 happened, a lot of the community, we came together, we had meetings, that was at the Portuguese Sport Club. We also had meetings also at the planning board and also at the municipal council meetings. And we was in an uproar because the 2 years prior to that, we did a master plan. And in the master plan, it was supposed to create a community of ideas that we could actually plan for to see how we want our neighborhood to look like. So when the MX3 came, they wanted to build up to 20 stories high. And it's like, we're already dealing with an issue when it comes to density and also overpopulation, especially when you come with traffic. We're in a very highly traffic area, so how would that put on an impact of the traffic? And also for the police department, how would the police deal with more influx of citizens, and also with the influx of for the fire department? God forbid if a fire broke out, how are we going to make sure that our residents get out safely? And also with the environmental piece, because a couple of years ago, one of the factories had a major issue and it had chemicals in it. And it's like, where is our escape route plan? And that's very important, especially living in this industrial area where we have so many chemicals here. How do we protect our people?
So, Ms. Garner, you know, you or your slate have a position, you know, you don't have a mayoral candidate. Mm-hmm. How would you evaluate, let's say, the job that Mayor Baraka has done during his first term?
His first term, I guess it's like the tale of two cities, because you have to build, but within the building, how do you make sure that the residents are, I guess, safe and secure, and make sure they have the right, what's the word I'm looking for, resources to be able to keep up with the pace of how everything is moving. So it's like, yes, part is good, and then the other part, it definitely needs more work, because nothing is perfect. So it's like, how do we come together to make sure that we could work as a team to make sure the issues of the community is being met? So,
all right, but formally, a movement of the people has not endorsed either candidate for mayor?
No.
Okay. Let's go on to one of the main topics of concern, not only here in the East Ward, but the entire city, and that is of public safety. What are some of your ideas so that the city of Newark, you know, can feel safer? You know, there's been a lot of talk that, you know, the statistics may show that crime is down, but I mean, most people still don't feel necessarily safe. What are your thoughts about what we should do in the city in the area of public safety? Oh,
definitely. It has to be community policing. It's the community that has to come together, especially when you have community group watches. That means that your community is watching. So say if we put up more lights, because they say lights also deter crime, because you're more visible to be seen. Also, your neighbors come out, know your neighbor, know who's on your block. That means you say hi, you find out what's going on, you go to your community meetings, you go to your precinct meetings, you know your officer, and we have to build relationships with the police department. And especially we have the community police officers now, so I think that's definitely a win-win, because they're in the community, they know the children, they know what their needs are, and it's like how well can you assess that? I just did a project with the 3rd Precinct. It was called Love Where You Live, Live Where You Love. And I also have a small business, and it's called Chosen Designs. And I did a project with the children, so I had children from Higher Court, Terrell Homes, Aspen, and also the neighboring kids that lives in the area. And I broke them up in groups from 5th grade to 8th grade, and they all worked together in unison. And also I got a donation from the Prudential Center to go see the Devil game. So there is a momentum, because if you could teach the children and show the children the right way, we have to get back to the values and the basics. And I think that's where the power will come from, and hold them accountable. And also, if you want to take some of the youth, because I know they used to have the DARE program about drugs, and find out what are the underlying causes that's creating this crime. So if we need more employment, how do we start getting employment up? And I think that's probably a major issue. Or just the officers come and speak to the community and see what the community needs are.
One of the issues that, you know, definitely a root cause of crime is, let's say, the gang culture, or, you know, the the fact that there are too many gangs, you know, in all urban centers. This is not a Newark specific issue. You know, one of the solutions which have been identified, you know, is to have constructive recreation programs. How would you evaluate or rate the quality of Newark's preventative programs for youth to keep them away from gangs?
I guess that's a two-part, because when you say gangs, when you look at the whole world, it's always in a trauma state. You know, especially when you go to other countries where it's so much war, it's so much pain. It's like, what is the outlet? So I guess when you talk about the gangs, what is the outlet? Because when the gangs started, it was started from a Black Panther movement when they took care of their community. Now it shifted because the morals shifted. And then you don't hear anything about God anymore. For instance, with the school shooting now, you didn't hear about that when they had God in school or when they had prayer in school. So whoever you might pray to, just give a moment of silence to who you pray to and give that reverence, because it humbles you. And then what happens to those children is like they have all this energy, all this rage, all this pain. And it's like, how do you tell it in a way that you don't have to be destructive? And I think that's what we have to get back to. One is definitely, what is your character? So I guess that would based on your self-esteem, on how you perceive yourself, and that's what they have to be built on too. So you could definitely have programs on development, spiritual development, mental development. You know, especially because I know they just did a program with Equal Justice when they did about trauma, when they had the officers. You know, because that's a hard job, because you're thinking about your life and you're also thinking about the suspect that might try to take your life. So it's a two-way street, and if you could teach them the way, then maybe it would deter some of the crime.
Last issue on public safety for now is, you know, many of our viewers are from, you know, Brazilian background, and there are, you know, a significant percentage of folks who are currently undocumented.
Yes.
The issue of, you know, Newark being a sanctuary city has gotten, you know, a lot of ink in the press. What is your position about Newark being a sanctuary city, and is it appropriate given, you know, not just the East Ward? I mean, this is an issue throughout the city, and
Yes.
there are many communities, not just the Brazilian community, that faces some of the challenges. So what do you feel is appropriate for Newark to be a sanctuary city?
Definitely, because as you say, when you think of America, when it first started, they took the lands from the natives, and then the Africans came over with the enslavement. So that plays a major part. So sanctuary city is very important because you're dealing with so many different cultures. You know, if it could be, anyone could be undocumented if you're coming from any other part of the country or any other part of the world. Yeah. So it's like, how do we protect that? Because we need diversity. Diversity is beautiful, and we need the trade. So I definitely, I know with Governor Murphy, when he just mentioned about the sanctuary city, that they be able to get the legal counsel. So that's definitely a good thing. So I guess we have to put pressure definitely on the federal to realize if you stop the influx of them coming in, that is the major resources. One is the resources and the money that they bring into the community as undocumented. So technically, they are part of America. And if you stop that, that's going to be very detrimental, and especially when you're thinking of it economically wise. So we definitely have to keep our ties together.
So, Ms. Garner, moving on to the issue of education.
Yes.
Newark recently regained local control from the state. What do you believe is the significance of that, and what would be your top education initiative should you be elected on May 8th?
So with that, the parents have to get out. They have to be involved in school. That means you have to go to your PTO meetings. You have to go to your school board meetings. If you have a problem, go to the state, because a lot of the state passes the laws that govern how the school system is going to be, especially with the local level. We all have to work together, especially with the federal. If they keep cutting funds, that's a major problem. And especially when we had a system where the school always been broken in urban areas. Why don't we have the proper books that our children needs to read? And we also have a high population, especially in Ironbound, when you have the dual language, or one if they speak their first language first. So it's like, how do we make sure that they have the proper resources to make it? So for instance, one of the programs that we could do, because I would love to learn more of the language, so why can't we do a dualship where they're learning English and I can learn Spanish and Portuguese, and that also builds the community and is also unity, and that's what it's all about. Because like I say, no man is an island. And when you look at the world, each one grows special foods, special fruits. They also grow special resources, whether it be the coal, the iron, the steel. And so it's basically like it's a trading melting pot. And that's what we have to remember, that we have to learn how to work together. That's why I always say, love where you live where you love. And there is no unity without community. And we all have to work together, no matter what color we are. At the end of the day, we breathe the same air, and we got to work together.
So, Ms. Garner, one of the things, and I think everybody will agree that education is critical for the future of our city. But historically, the voter participation rates in school board elections have been, embarrassingly low.
Yes.
Now that there's local control, the residents soon will be able to pick what type of board that they have. Do you favor a direct elected board, or a hybrid, or possibly a mayor appointed board?
It's always power to the people. So give the people the power. Give them a choice.
I guess I walked into that. Your group is called the Movement of the People, right? All right. But how do we get greater voter participation then? You
have to educate. Educate. It's taking the time. It's like, listen, you want things to change, you come out and vote. If you don't come out and vote, you don't have no voice. And that's what the people got to realize. But we've been broken for so long and afraid for so long. But then you got to remember our ancestors, they was fighters. They paved the way, and it's a beautiful story. It's like we got to be able to pick that courage back up. And we're like, listen, it's okay. It's okay to agree to disagree, So I think that's one is the education piece, especially with civics. You got to teach. A lot of people don't know, how important it is. Sometimes you might not have to go the route of going to the schools. Just you talking to your neighbor, like, hey, what's going on? I need some help. Can you come tutor my child? Or the group come together and be like, listen, we're going to take a moment and we're going to do a book reading today. It's simple things. Or I'm walking down the street, oh, look at that sign. Oh, it says stop. It's anything you can learn from. So.
All right. So yeah. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
We're going to move on to development.
Okay.
Again, you've been very involved in, as a community activist. What do you feel are the major issues that the city council and the mayor should address? From the prospect of appropriate development moving forward.
Appropriate development, you have to build for all, homes for all. Homes for all.
Tell us a little bit about what Homes for All is all about.
Oh, okay, so Homes for All it's a group of us that came together. It's also, we have business owners, homeowners, renters, different organizations that come together, and basically we feed each other information. And when it came to the rent control ordinance, it was supposed to be, before it was passed through City Hall, they wanted it to go through the ballot. So what they had to do is get the petitions. So they got the petitions and the signatures, and once that happened, we had enough signatures for it to not go to the ballot, so it ended up getting passed through City Council. So that's definitely power. So with development, you have to realize that you have so many different walks of life, especially when you look at Newark, when the median income is $34,000. And then you have some that, that might have the medium income and also the high income. So it's like, how do we make a melting pot where we can all stay? And that's why we have to realize, especially when it comes to development, you allow these corporations to come in and they get 30, 40 years tax abatements. You have to give back to the community. You can't keep taking from the tax owners and the taxpayers, especially when it comes to housing. So one, we have to build affordable housing. Two, we have to do condos. We could also do regular housing where people can actually buy their own homes. That's definitely important. And also, you have to protect subsidized housing and Newark Housing Authority. And what I have seen, that the majority of the housing authority buildings has been demolished, and they have been replaced by affordable housing, and that's a major issue. So what happens to that influx, especially with Terrell Homes? And they fought hard. The elders, they came out. When I say they fought hard because they signed off for that building to be demolished, and it's right next to the riverfront because that's prime property. But you have to think about everyone. And if you have, to me, I feel as though if you let the property get to the point where, as you say, it's not livable, but right here we see at Mulberry Commons when you just gutted a building. So why can't you do the same thing for the neighbors and make sure that they have programs that if you do see it's a problem, that they could understand how to take care of where they live at, or if they need resources that's dealing with trauma issues, and there's a reason why they do certain things, and build the relationships with the police officers to make sure that they do come in there and make sure they police the area. So it's going to take everyone to work together and protect everyone, because no one wants to get displaced, especially if we bring Amazon here, everything's going to rise. You know, so it's like, how do we ask for the incentives that's going to protect us as the homeowners, as the renters, and especially as the business owners? Do you think Amazon? What do you think Newark's chances are to bring Amazon? I don't know. It could be 50-50. Anything could happen. You know, because we do have the Prudential Center, Financial, and the Arena. We also have NJPAC, and at one time this was like the home of the warehouses at one time. You know, and especially the factories, because I remember when my mother used to tell me the stories that you could go from one to another and someone always had a job. And I think that's what we lost, and that's why we have to make sure that we protect the mom and pop stores and also the small businesses.
So you're a small business owner, you
yes.
said. Tell us about that.
Okay.
That experience.
Okay, so that experience was an experience. I went through Rising Tide Capital. So Rising Tide Capital was a 12-week program. And then once I finished that program, we had another program that was connected to it. It was called the Newark Community Development Corporation, and they have storefronts in all of the 5 wards. And one of the wards that we had here in the East Ward, we had a community store. It was on Polk Street. However, it was on the inside block, and we didn't get a lot of foot traffic. And I think that was part of the problem. So to me, I feel as though if you're going to bring business owners to the table, we have to sit down collectively as collective, collective bargaining, but like, listen, this is what we need, these are the resources that you have, and make sure that we actually build together in transparency and understanding the needs of what the community needs. And I think that's what needs to be, one, taught, and also more researched on, because what are the businesses that we're bringing, that how can we build economically so the residents can stay, so they won't be displaced. So for instance, we could do a community co-op. So within a community business co-op, that would be a partnership within itself. And so we could also partner off the major institutions that's already here, and they could be like a guiding force to make sure that we have everything properly in place.
Now, Newark is the job provider capital of the state of New Jersey, but yet our unemployment is historically above the state average. While there have been some improvements, do you think we're doing enough to, let's say, marry economic development with, let's say, the job readiness of our residents? In other words, what can we do to make sure we bring more jobs to Newarkers?
One, you have to know what training do they have, and what training are they lacking. So for instance, I guess right now it would be tech. Tech is booming right now. So we have to make sure, I know they do have one of the programs with the coding programs, especially for the children and also for the adults. So another piece would be industrial. Why isn't it a place, or like for instance with the construction, with the Newark residents that's already here, why aren't you preparing them for that workforce where they can learn how to be masons or how to be builders? And that's very powerful, and especially when it comes to demolition, because each one has a part to play. And why can't you teach them how to be electricians? Because you need an electrician to make sure that that's part of the building structure. So each part you could definitely teach. And also, I know, I guess it goes back to the school, because at one time, how they used to have home economics. They also had the piece when you used to build. And to me, I think they need to bring that back. And also with the civics, what about the child do want to learn how to be, the next council, or to understand legislative? It's like we have to start teaching them at a young age, so when they be prepared to go through each school level, and when they're ready to go out of college, then we have Rutgers here, that the majority of our residents are attending Rutgers University. And I think that would be a major part, especially with the training. And also, for instance, with when you think about welfare, you go through a program for work first, but then after the 5 years, you still don't have the right employment. So why aren't we connecting with these major institutions that could be career ready to help them get off and shift off the system? you know, and that's what we need. So why can't we have, for instance, like a build business co-ops within the first within the Work First program? So they need different incentives for different categories, because everybody's not built for college. So if you're not built for college, what other pathway do we have for you that you could be successful?
So let me ask you, if you were to get elected on May 8th, you know, you take office July 1st, July 2nd, you get into your office, what's the first call you're going to make?
What's the first call? Should we have a community meeting? Like, listen, what's the next thing we have to do? You know, that's very important, and I think that's what drives, because you don't know everything. No one knows everything because we're not God. So from that, you have to work with everyone, because everyone has beautiful ideas, whether it be some might be crazy, some might be good, but it all still plays a part, and we have to learn how to work together.
Last topic we're going to have time for today is the issue of health care.
Yes.
Approximately 10 years ago, the East Ward lost its only acute care hospital, and it has struggled to have, you know, adequate ambulance services, clinic services for those folks who may not have insurance. What can you do as a councilwoman, should you be elected, to help improve the quality of health care access to the residents of the East Ward?
Well, that is very important, especially like you just said. God forbid if someone was dying, and then you have the issue with the traffic, how you going to get through and how you're going to save their life. So we definitely need a hospital that's fully active, especially with the emergencies. So with that, I would definitely have to do research on that to understand how the money is funneled and how does it work. Because I know, like, for instance, St. Barnabas does a lot of things, and Rutgers just took over UD&J. So we need to find the resources there to make sure that we have it properly. So if that means I have to get money from the federal or from the state and figure out locally, we have to do this together. And that's when you have to basically brainstorm and understand the needs of the people and come together and make sure that we get that done, because that's very important.
Well, Ms. Garner, incredibly, the time has quickly come to a close. Why don't you give a final message to all our viewers, and possibly something that you didn't get a chance to say? I don't know if there's something that you wanted to say you didn't get a chance to, or why don't you give us your final message?
This has been a journey, and I'm happy to be part of it. The election is May 8th, so vote for Tanisha H. Garner, C5, and a movement of the people. You also have the rest of my members, too, that you will see. It's about us coming together at the end of the day. It's about the power that we have. We could be stronger together, we could be better together, and we definitely have to work together. And that's how we're going to get things done. When I get elected, it has to be us as a collective to make sure these things are done. So when we have community meetings, when we have city hall meetings, we all have to come. You have any issues, any problems, you have to definitely come down to the office, definitely call us, definitely come through, because this is the only way things are going to change. So that means if we have to mobilize to go to the state level, let's do it together. If we have to mobilize to go to the federal level, let's do it together. And especially in the city level, we have to do it together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Garner. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
And that concludes this interview, and also concludes our 5 interviews with all East Ward candidates. We remind all our viewers that we have done this to try to inform you of the positions of all the candidates so that you can make an educated decision. We have not endorsed, nor would it be appropriate to endorse any of the candidates. What we do endorse is a request for you to please become educated, informed, and participate on May 8th. It is only by greater participation that we can have a more efficient and effective democratic system. Thank you all, and may God bless you, and please vote on May 8th.